before going all in to all the channels and try to see what works and not works, let's go back and let's identify people that fit what you think is going to be your buyer, and let's talk with those people.
You can just go to the coffee shop and ask, hey, can I buy your coffee if you can answer some questions for me about an idea I have? And 9 times out of 10 people will be like, sure, I love free coffee. Honest E-commerce is a weekly podcast where we interview direct-to-consumer brand founders and leaders to find out what it takes to start, grow, and scale an online business today. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Honest E-commerce. Today, I am welcoming the show an amazingly smart gentleman. I've got Filipe Castro Matos coming to us. He is currently the entrepreneur in residence over at alter.io. But on the side, he also advises a lot of early stage startups in crafting and executing their go-to-market strategies. Filipe, welcome to the show.
And thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here and glad for this conversation.
Yeah, we're going to have an awesome conversation today around validating your ideas and then the how to kind of go to market with your new idea. Quickly, can you run me through how do you know so much about this? What do you what kind of jobs and experience? Why should people listen to you? What kind of expertise are you actually bringing to the table?
Okay. So I've been working basically with startups all my life. So almost since the beginning of my career, I would say around 12, 13 years now. And I learned everything on the job on many different startups. So I work with dozens of startups in many different industries. And I always work on marketing in different roles in marketing, but always on marketing. And of course, I learned many things since being just one person in marketing in that startup until managing marketing teams of 4 or 5 people. And so in many different stages of those startups as well. And so, somewhere in the middle, I also work with e-commerce specifically. I would say 2, 3 companies. I think 2. Very interesting comparison that I could do because one was already scaling and I helped them scale even more. The other one was really started and it wasn't that great success, and at least while I was there. So we can talk about that later. But my experience with e-commerce was in those 2 companies where I spent around 5 years in total.
Absolutely. And I think that with go-to-market and with just the strategies behind getting awareness about a brand or a product and then converting that awareness into sales, the overarching strategies are kind of the similar. It's agnostic to the industry. It's just the execution and the nuance of it gets a little more industry specific. Would that be valid?
I would say so. I would say that I'm the proof of that because I worked with many different industries and it was never a problem for me because I can see that I applied many of the foundations, the principles for those strategies. And so I would say that anyone could work on that marketing strategy in any industry. The foundations are the same. Of course, we're going to for sure discuss that. One of the first things that I do when I'm starting a new company, I wouldn't do in the beginning because I didn't know, but then I learned the importance of speaking with customers, with users, and knowing everything about that specific industry, that specific use case. That's very, very important for marketing. And that's one of the biggest pitfalls that many founders run, is that they don't speak enough with their customers, with their prospects, and they jump right into executing different channels, trying everything without having complete clear what is their positioning, what is their messaging. That's very, very important. So, of course, that applies to any industry. So you don't need necessarily previous experience in that industry, but if you don't have, you need to talk with everybody in that industry to understand very well how to communicate to them.
Yeah, because it's so funny how the language that you're used to speaking in your niche or vertical or industry is Spanish to folks that aren't in your industry. So it's very funny. So what you said there, though, I guess let's just start at that, right? So you mentioned like when you first take on a client or a new position, and just for the remainder of this conversation, we're going to speak very much in like e-commerce terms, just to make it easy for everyone. And that's also what the audience listens to. But you could extrapolate from this if you were thinking about other stuff. But before you're even going to like craft and execute kind of a go-to-market strategy, which is just a fancy term for like a marketing and sales plan for this new thing, you kind of alluded to there. It's like we have to validate a lot of this stuff first, because there's always usually a lot of assumptions around the product or the solution or the offer or who the actual audience is. So like, how do you help an e-commerce startup validate their idea?
Yeah, there are different ways. The one that I prefer is, of course, going directly to the audience, understanding very well the customer. Sometimes you have also the user that is not necessarily the buyer. So you need to understand very well the different personas that are in that journey. Usually e-commerce is easier because it's direct to consumer. So the buyer is the user that is using your product or website. So usually it's easier. Still, there are some cases that could make sense to talk with other people. One thing that many years ago, before I learned everything that I know today, it is very common. So I did that in the past, and it's very common. Many founders do is like going directly to the channels and trying to test and validate that idea while they are going to the market, which I think is dangerous. I still think that is possible, but only for experienced people. Maybe they could do that. For not so experienced founders, that's very, very dangerous, because you can spend lots of effort, lots of money, going to different channels. That includes paying for ads, but also developing content for social media, for blog, trying many different things. And then you are receiving signs from everywhere. And that is dangerous, because maybe you are not receiving enough signs, or if you are receiving lots of signs, they are like completely different, because channels are also different, audiences may be different. So that's very hard to manage. And so I prefer to and it's what I tell founders all the time, is like, before going all in to all the channels and try to see what works and not works, let's go back and let's identify people that fit what you think is going to be your buyer. And let's talk with those people. And it's not that hard to find those people. And you don't need hundreds of conversations. If you talk with 10, 20 people, is more than enough to help you build this strategy. And I'm completely sure, and I tell this to all the founders, is like, after 10, 20 conversations, I'm sure that your strategy will be completely different than what you were thinking before having those conversations. And so part of this conversation sometimes is also product feedback that could inform also the go-to-market strategy. It can mix the both of them, especially in the beginning before starting the startup and launching the product. Many times is a mix of both, and it's okay. And so that's my process, is like, go back to the basics, talk with people, and then build a strategy around those insights.
Now, I just have to ask this, because a lot of our listeners out there are like, okay, I've got 20 cousins. I'm going to give my cousins the product and get their feedback, right? I'm assuming that you want founders to go talk to strangers and not people that are anyway biased towards the outcome.
Yeah, I would say so. Cousins, family, parents are great buyers. If you can sell to them in the beginning, great. But for this kind of feedback to validate the idea, that's not ideal, because of course they are biased.
They're going to be nice to you regardless.
They are biased. They want to help you. It's not the best feedback. Sometimes it happens that somewhere in the family there is this perfect person that is going to be the perfect buyer for you, but that's rare. So I would say try to find strangers, or at least third connections, like someone that knows your friend or your family. That's already better. But you want someone that is not emotionally attached to you and to your success. But yeah, even finding strangers usually is not that hard. Of course, it really depends. I'm not talking about specific case here, but yeah, you can find like on social media, on Reddit, on forums, on groups, online events, physical events as well.
Yeah.
You can find many people. And once again, it's not hundreds of people. It's like just 10 people. It shouldn't be hard. If you can find those 10 people by yourself with no paid ads, that's maybe a sign that that you need to review everything before jumping in and building a product for 1 year. And then what's going to happen? Probably you're going to need the same thing, that is finding people. And so I prefer to do that before putting lots of effort, lots of time on developing a product without any kind of validation.
Yeah, and another thing that I've read, and I really wish I remember where this was, but it was like, you can just go to the coffee shop and like ask, hey, can I buy your coffee if you can answer some questions for me about an idea I have? And 9 times out of 10 people will be like, sure, I love free coffee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like another thing that happens is that, of course, we are talking e-commerce, so it's a digital business. Sometimes people are hidden behind the screen and don't go to the street to talk to people. And like you can find lots of people in the coffee store, and that's perfectly okay to validate the idea. You are not testing how to scale from 1,000 customers to 1 million customers. You just want to validate your idea, and then a little bit after that, you just want to get your first 10, your first 100 customers. And for that, you don't need to have a perfect digital scale strategy. That's not what we need right now.
Oh, so you're saying that I don't need to spend all of my money on the most beautiful website in the world with the most top designer in the world with all these award-winning people. I can just stand something up, DIY it myself, and get my first 100, maybe my first 1,000 customers?
Exactly. And now talking about e-commerce, website, of course, is going to be an important piece of the journey. A good website will always compare better than a bad website. That's not what you are testing right now. The website is just a mean to an end. What you need is like you have an idea for a product that you want to sell through a website.
Yep.
So you want to validate the product itself. The product usually solves some kind of pain problem that people have, and you just need to talk with the people that you imagine are the best audience for that product and validate that. Many times you see that what you are thinking is not exactly what people think, and sometimes it's the same, but they value other things more than what you are thinking. And especially with e-commerce, when you are selling physical products, it's important to have this validation before you go developing the product, because you can spend months developing the product. It depends, of course, if it's technology or if it's apparel or whatever, but you need some time. It's not like just developing a website that today you could develop in one day. That's done. A physical product is different. So before jumping in like a factory developing that product, I would really validate the problem and the solution with real people that could be your real customers.
Yeah. And I just anecdotally want to say, we talk to a lot of entrepreneurs that have websites that are doing all right, and they might have done the first iteration, or, their experts didn't build these websites by any means, but the language in which they're talking about the problems that are solved by their product are helping them kind of get to that first million without really doing a huge investment in their Shopify store. And if you're building an e-commerce business and you can't use Shopify for some reason, I would argue that maybe your business model is overly complicated.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like Shopify and other similar tools are perfect to start for any e-commerce founder.
If you truly believe you need a custom solution to build an e-commerce business, you should maybe be rethinking what you're doing.
I agree. Like in one of the e-commerce companies that I work with, we use Shopify to launch and sell for the first customers. But we kept Shopify until later. Like I remember that we are already, like we had 20 million annual revenue. And that was the moment where when we start thinking about changing and maybe a customer solution. But it was like $20 million annual revenue. It was already big, and Shopify was okay until then. So if a company like this can work with Shopify, like anyone that is starting can work with Shopify or any other similar solution.
Hey, everybody, just a quick reminder. Please like this video and subscribe if you haven't. We're releasing interviews like this every week, so don't miss out. Now back to the interview. All right, so I'm just going to recap some stuff real quick to get back on track for the go-to-market, because I knew I was going to have fun with you and we were going to do this. All right, so validate before you overinvest in manufacturing. Just don't overinvest in your website at the beginning. And then, so you've had these conversations with folks. If you're doing it digitally, just record it so you can dump that transcript into AI. It makes your life a lot easier. In person, record it with your phone so you can remember everything that's said. Take all these notes, right? So you've got all this information that you've learned about your product and the potential, how it solves these problems. Now, how do I take all this information from these 10, 20 conversations I've had and turn it into an effective go-to-market strategy?
Yeah. So in terms of tools, you already mentioned, like, it's amazing how AI is helping now with customer research. Like I remember doing customer research with people. In that case, it was like in the same room, but it could be online through a Zoom call, any kind of online call. But I remember how painful it was to have like a good conversation going on, but also taking notes at the same time, and then digesting everything. It was hard. Like all the process, it was very painful. And now it's completely different. And I already did recently with AI. The AI is recording everything. I can focus on the conversation, and the AI will take all the notes and digest everything. And then I can also, of course, interact with all the notes later. So that would be my main recommendation for any kind of interaction that you have to receive this kind of validation feedback, is to record the calls. Have a good AI assistant to take the notes, and then it's going to be so much easier. The process is quite simple. It's like identify the people and then set up like maybe one day where you run different conversations with different people, or in different days. It really depends on the people's availability. That's like agenda management. But then there is, like, of course, I always ask some specific questions. I'm not going to say here the exact script that I use, but usually what I recommend is if you are in the really early days of the startup, you want to validate also the problem, not only the solution. So usually I say to people that the best thing is to start from the problem, and then eventually you can introduce the solution. Or sometimes you can have like a completely different conversation about the solution. So today you have the conversation only about the problem, and in 1 month you talk with the same person to show what you are thinking to solve that problem, your solution. Sometimes it's not possible, and you can you can talk about the solution in the same call, but try to not talk immediately about the solution. I know that's hard. Like the founders are thinking, oh, I have the perfect solution, I need to talk about this. But usually I see that it is really beneficial to talk about the problem first and validate the problem, because I've seen cases where the founder is thinking about the problem in one way that is not how people think. Mm-hmm. The people that are in the market, that are the potential customers. So I'll do that. It's like, talk about the problem, only ask things about the problem, like what you are feeling when you are doing X that you intend to solve, where you go to solve this. Like, try to understand what people are doing today that you feel that is not the best solution, but try to go to all the details. And only then you introduce your solution and try to see how they feel about your solution. somewhere in the middle, or at the end, then it really depends on the order that you want to bring to the call. But I also like to ask about things like where you go to search for this kind of solutions, or where do you spend your life online, things like that, to start understanding how I'm gonna find more people like that person. If that person is the audience that I want to attract, I want to find more people like that. And so the best person to answer me this and to inform about this is in fact that person that is right in that conversation. So usually I try to ask those questions to inform also my marketing strategy, and not try to invent the wheel, because people marketing, basically one of the roles of marketing is to go where people are. And if you have that person there, that person probably knows a little bit better than you where you can find more people like them.
Yeah, it's funny. You're like asking them where they hang out online, and if they're like, oh, like I get, I go on Reddit to find these solutions, and you hear that multiple times. It's like, well, Reddit might be a great paid channel for us once we get this solution off the ground.
Yeah.
And it's just from having those conversations and talking to the right people. Do you often are you ever asking a question like, how much would you pay for a solution like this without even introducing a solution?
Sometimes, yes. Once again, not right in the beginning of the call, but in the end, when I'm already talking about the solution, that's something that we can ask. I don't see big harm asking that. Maybe there are better ways to validate the pricing. But pricing is like a hard thing to guess immediately.
Yeah.
So what I see is that many times you are testing pricing for like months until you guess what is the perfect pricing. But yeah, it's possible to ask in those first conversations. I would just leave that for the end of the conversation and not ask right in the beginning.
Absolutely. So you have all these conversations with potential customers and or real customers at the beginning of kind of starting to build out this go-to-market strategy. And then from that, you learn in their voice, their pain points, what this solution should be solving. And I'm assuming you just start to flip that information from their voice into something a little more generic to build out your ICP, your ideal customer profile. And then from there, start to build campaigns around like, this is where they'll be, and this is maybe the pain point, or this is what we should focus on for this particular advertising campaign. Is that kind of the next step?
More or less, I would say. Yes, after the conversations, basically you're going to digest all the information. So that's why AI could help you a lot.
Yeah.
Because it's so much easier to digest everything. And yeah, like before going to the channels, you want to build your positioning and your messaging. And I love the conversations with potential customers, because many times they say like a sentence that could be your copy for the website, for example. And it's like I copy what they told me in the call. I don't need to invent the copy. I don't need to change.
No editing. You're like, that is it. Copy and paste.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And so basically you need to digest that, and you're gonna start like identifying some patterns, 7 out of the 10 people always mention this specific thing, always tell this in this particular way. And you see, okay, I need to talk like these guys, so I'm going to use this in my copy, not only in the website, but also like in paid ads or in social media or in a blog or in any kind of channel. I'm going to use that positioning and that messaging that I found through customer conversations. So that to be like the second step is digest everything and build that. Don't like just leave the notes somewhere safe. Like build a document with a written positioning, some messages that you can use, based on those conversations. And then you can go to the channels. Usually, I don't recommend going directly to paid ads because I feel that you need to test organically before going to a paid channel. But like other people probably disagree with me, so I'm okay with that. I know that with e-commerce in the past, like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, was a really common strategy going directly to paid ads. And I understand that because it was way cheaper doing that at that time than it is today. Today, there are lots of challenges, not only with the price, but also with the privacy issues with paid ads. You knew way more things about the people 10 years ago than today. And also people are tired of ads. And of course, many more companies are using ads as a acquisition strategy today than 10 years or 15 years ago. So I'll be careful. But of course, you can try paid ads, but only after getting the messaging, the positioning that I talked before, because that's going to be, I'm sure that will bring you better results because you have already like some message that was approved by potential customers from your conversations. So the process would be that, like talking to customers, build your positioning, your messaging notes that you're going to use then to go directly to those channels and testing that message out there. It could be outreach, like I know that with e-commerce it's not that usual to do cold outreach, but it could work.
Yeah.
But yeah, like on social media, on paid ads, like you test that message and prove if it's working or not. Sometimes it doesn't work even after those conversations, but you are closer to that than without doing any kind of conversations before.
That's amazing. Now, Filipe, is there anything I didn't ask you about that you think would resonate with our audience today?
I'm not thinking about a specific question, but I can talk about like the good things that I see with e-commerce that I don't see so much with other type of products that I also work. So I work a lot with software as a service products, and I see big difference between those two. So e-commerce is great because it's direct to consumer, and usually the founders try to build a brand as well around that product. And I feel that today more than ever, building a brand is a great asset and is really, really important for your success. So for e-commerce founders, please continue doing that because I feel that is a big differentiator against other alternatives. That's my experience also with one of the e-commerce companies that I work with, the one that I mentioned before. It was already somehow successful. We start getting some copycats coming from like China and countries like that. But we had something that they didn't have, that was the brand. So that didn't affect a lot our success because we had the brand, also feeding our strategy, and not only the product that was good, and the other guys had the exact same product that was quite simple, but they didn't have the brand. So my recommendation would be to continue investing on brand. And if you are not doing that yet, please do, because that's important, and I feel that's more important than ever. Yeah.
Awesome. Filipe, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you.
If people want to get a hold of you online, where should they go? What should they do?
So I would say that the best place today is LinkedIn. You can connect me on LinkedIn. You can search me with Filipe Castro Matos. Connect with me, send me a message. If you are a founder, many times I talk with founders, so you can send me a message and we can set up a call, and I can try to help you in any way. And I would say that's my only place right now to find me.
Absolutely. We'll make sure to link to your LinkedIn in the show notes. Filipe, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you, Chase.